Yes, you are. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another test stream. We've got new camera setup thing again. Let's see if this one cuts out after an hour like the last one did. I am keeping an eye on the chat, but really I'm just going to be sitting here painting my Thunderhawk and seeing if everything breaks again like it did last time. Let me know if the sound's alright or if the picture is funny or any other weird things that are going on. And otherwise, I'm just going to crack on with it. So my plan for today is to start getting through some of the silver onto this, because there's a lot of the red's done, black's now done. I've just got to start building this up so I can start putting transfers and washing it back down and doing detail. So really I plan on just dry brushing more or less everything that's black with silver today. So I'm using my big fat Artist Opus brushes. I've got my mega brush and my slightly smaller one, and all I'm going to do is just work my way around with the silver paint. I'm using Scale 75's black metal. And we're going to keep an eye to see if the camera cuts out again like it did last time. Thanks, Kata. Is the music working? Yeah, this is one grot with a pot. That's probably a better name for it, actually. In this case, a pot of silver paint that I'm just going to dry brush the hell out of this Thunderhawk with. Who else have I got in the chat? Not telling. Lionel Johnson's back. Great, I'm glad to hear the picture quality is working. Let's see if it all falls over again like it did last time. So as a reminder, in about quarter of an hour, John goes live on the BAC channel for his army list review. I'm going to stream for about an hour and a half or so, or until this fails, and just stress test it before we try and use it properly. One grot with a pot, although Mark's in the chat at least. Hopefully one of these days we'll get it all set up and there'll be all three of us painting. Don't know if that'll actually happen, but you never know. It'd be nice if it did. So I thought this texture palette was a bit of a waste of money when I bought it, but actually I find I quite miss it if I don't have it. Not telling. Miniac made me laugh with Lion L. Johnson. Lion the Johnson is a weird name. It is a weird name. And he's a bit of a dick. I've been reading through the Horus Heresy because it's something I've always meant to do. And all I can think of is that the Lion is really a right dick. Can't blame entirely the Luther and the Hariel and that going traitor. Because, you know, yeah, dick. So I'm giving a super heavy dry brush with this silver. It's a really dark silver, this. Just to add a bit of interest. I'm not going to go absolutely ham on the interior because you're not really going to see it. But I do want to get a fair bit of contrast in here so that when you look at it through the canopy, which you can't really see there, but it's actually blue on the inside, you'll be able to sort of see that there is stuff going on inside there. I've already painted the two Marines that are going to sit in there. I did those a little while ago. Despite encouragement, I'm in no hurry to film myself painting. It's a lot more work than I initially thought it was going to be, Mark. Like, I thought it was just slap up a camera, away I go. But every time I think I've solved a problem, a new one jumps up. So we had the battery problem last time, so now I'm using the an Elgato capture card and the HDMI output on my camera, which hopefully should fix it. We'll see. I'm sitting here painting these seats that I know someone's going to sit in. There's absolutely no way you're going to be able to see this detail when it's done. But I would know that I hadn't painted them. Like these ladders. How are you possibly going to see it? The horizontal line on my t-shirt looks disorientating when pixelating due to the smaller sized bit of the screen you're on. Oh, weird. Remember that. Important stuff, fashion advice. I mean, the Lord of Death does look fabulous, so we can't really take the mic there. Beautiful hair. Make Kurt Russell proud. Start on the big old gun. You'd think about doing something fancy with this gun and painting it in different colours and that, but and I might yet do that. I really just want to start getting it all silver and then see how it looks. I do think sometimes, especially with these big models, that less is more. Go too overboard with the detail, just ends up looking like a bit of a mess. If you're like Squidmar or something like that, you can thousands of little details. Fortunately, A, not as good a painter as Squidmar, and also I haven't got nearly as much time. Nice. Mark, I had long hair down to my shoulders in my early 20s and I got it cut to get a job. I got the job, but my girlfriend, now wife, burst into tears because I hadn't told her I was getting it done. I think my wife would burst into tears if I did get it done for all the other reasons. Like, she desperately wants me to cut off my hair. She doesn't think that Kurt Russell is cool either. Sounds ridiculous, but I'm really looking forward to getting this on a gaming table. I know it's going to be absolutely crap. And that rules as written, I don't even think you can really field it. You have to place it on the table and not do anything with it for the first turn. Then let it get shot. Which is mental. But I just want to see my opponent's face when they bring something sensible and I bring a Thunderhawk. And now with the CP changes, it's even easier to bring because I don't think it's got Martial Legacy. Whoa, hello. Knock the camera over. I don't think it's got Martial Legacy. And because you can get back a bit more CP for the detachments, I think I can bring it for a CP. Which would be mental. I think just got a very quick view of my messy desk. I've got cables running everywhere to make this work. When I've moved, I'll build a proper permanent setup. Jury rigging crap across my... Knock everything over. No Martial Legacy. Excellent. Just 800 points, same as my Porphyrion. You know, I actually think the Porphyrion might do more damage than this would. But I know the Porphyrion would do more damage than this would. But at least this one's still a starty, so I don't have to pay for... Cope with the fact that it's a knight. Although I do fancy the other big knight, Chiron. I like the way it looks so derpy with those big fat arms. Yeah, Lionel, Flyers and Lords of War are actually better in Nephilim. A lot of other stuff got worse. My poor old Custodes. I've got a Telemon sitting here just feeling sad for himself. He's not even finished painting him. At least he didn't go up in points. I suppose comparatively now he's better than he was. Just because the Galatus and the Achilles went up so much. So what, these Artis Opus dry brushes were really expensive, but I do love them. Bit of an indulgence. A bit of an indulgence. They were definitely an indulgence. I'm not sure why on these kind of wing las cannon, like it's got a recoil compensation. A las cannon's supposed to have a lot of recoil. I mean, it'll have some recoil, but it'll be fairly small, unless it's actually not a laser. I suppose. I mean, I can work it out because what? Mass of a photon. Mass of a photon is tiny. It's ridiculous to try and get any kind of measurable number off of that. Equals MA. The mass of a photon. How many photons do we need to throw out of one side of this Thunderhawk to get? To add insult to injury with Custodes, they won't be playable in New Heresy for a while. Yeah, I know that. My my list for Custode had 9 Alarus Terminators, and everything else was either a Dreadnought or a vehicle. And I went with, you know, massive, big, chonky boys, and I thought it'd be hilarious. It wasn't a particularly good army, but now I'm struggling to even build it because points increasing, coupled with CP reduction, means that running double Vanguard is nigh on impossible. So I was really hoping that my Alarus would have a home in Heresy. I don't know how good they are in Heresy historically, but I'd just like to be able to field them all at once. I don't care about how viable, it's just whether I can. And I did love the idea of massive, gigantic Terminator daddies as an army. Wasn't running any Custodian Guard, even though I know full well that Custodian Guard are the best Custodians at the moment. Robert White, first time in here. Evening all. Evening, Robert. You're very welcome. We're just testing to see how long my camera lasts before something goes wrong this time. The first time we had overheating, the second time managed to drain its battery while it was working. So let's see what we get for the third time. I paint coat. Thunderhawk Gunship, which is the coolest and also probably the least effective vehicle in the Space Marine arsenal. Yeah, before we all leave and go to John's Streamlaw, yeah, I suspect you all will, but I'll still be here seeing how long it takes for things to stop working. I'm hoping never. I'm hoping I get bored and stop, or stops working, but we will find out. Tell you what, this has been such a monster to paint. I need a break between painting giant Forge World ones. Much as I want to do a Warlord Titan. Not telling we definitely stay here. No, it's alright. Not telling. I know you're going to both at John's stream. How long have I been working on the Thunderhawk? I probably built it. I built it for the super heavy flyers part of the tier lists we did on the BAC channel last year. So that would have been what, June, July time? But it's taken until a few weeks ago for me to actually start painting it. Just because it's such a massive time investment to do. I've had so many other things that needed doing for commission work and gaming reasons that I just haven't done it. But I'm moving house next month and I really wanted to get the Thunderhawk done before I moved house. That was my goal. Finish the Thunderhawk before you move. So I don't think it's going to happen because I've got a long way off finishing this. Well, looks like it's just me and you, Grot, as I am a Templars player. So no, I have no interest in Blood Angels lists. Fair enough. I've got the Emperor's Champion on my commission list that I need to do for someone, but I haven't worked out a good scheme for him yet. Kind of fancy the idea of doing them in kind of a primeval kind of forest. I know they're not Dark Angels, but kind of think Caliban with that Crusading Knight, deep dark forest full of monsters look. Going with that kind of really dark, deep greens and things in the basing, maybe in the shading of the black. I think that could look quite cool. Because everybody always does it either sort of dusty or like really gory and things like that. And I just think it might be fun to do green as a shade rather than go brown or red. Not telling. Real question. Since Voidsman at Arms are looking to be the new servitors, what kit can I buy kit bash to make a squad of 6? Almost nothing has a las pistol and shotgun on a sergeant. One option is looking into Necromunda. So the Enforcers in Necromunda, they've got some shotguns that could look quite cool. They've got quite bulky armour, which might look quite nice as well. Another one, if you're feeling flush, is the Solar Auxilia from Horus Heresy. I'm not sure if they've got any shotguns or not, but they'd certainly make some pretty cool Voidsmen. They've all got Void armour on, which should look pretty cool. The main one everyone's using is Scions, but everyone's doing that, and I think it's a little bit boring. Lionel, I'm here too. Hail Dark Angel. Yep, absolutely. Hail Dark Angel. Steve T. Hey y'all. Hey Steve. I saw a bare metal blade guard squad and it was hella cool. Yeah, I could see that. Since you have the metallic out, you might as well start doing all those rivets. Oh, that's a bit further down the line on that one. I'll actually probably do those rivets later. I'll wash it all. Well, I say wash it all. I'll pin wash all these lines and panels and that with oils. And I'll pin wash around each one of those rivets, and then I'll probably just pick out each one of the rivets with a little dot of silver, because in my head they're not going to paint it before they rivet it together, which would imply that the rivets would have been painted too. But because they're all sitting proud of it, they're the sort of thing that's going to get a little bit worn, which is why I'm not being too careful with the dry brush, because edges and things like that, especially amongst these like moving parts, are going to start to get a bit worn through to the metal below. As long as I don't go out overboard with it, I think a little bit of overspray, overbrush maybe, with the silver will kind of tie the parts together a little bit. Robert White, thinking about painting up my Emperor's Champion. I'll go in the metal look. Could look spectacular if you use a really dark steel colour and then paint it in almost a non-metallic metal style, so extreme contrast but using metallics. Try and go with almost a chromish finish for him. That could look pretty stellar. Looking for shotguns. Black Templars upgrade kit comes with 5. Nice. You could take those 5 and stick them on something else. They might be quite bulky if you're putting them on normal sized humans though. Sadly, the Solar Auxilia are probably cheaper than buying the Voidsman on eBay. Scions are bland, but one of the cheapest ways to proxy them. Yeah, you're right. And probably Scions with the Black Templar shotguns might be your best way of doing it, because I bet you can get a pack of those Black Templar shotguns on eBay fairly cheap. Because I don't know if they're the optimal way of running neophytes or whatever they're called now. Actario, is this the super expensive flying fortress? Yes, this is the original super expensive flying fortress, as opposed to that more modern come as you, whatever you are, rubbish Stormbird for losers. Like, oh, the Thunderhawk's, you know, too iconic. We need to make something that's bigger, more expensive, and not as iconic. So they made the Stormbird. And they tried to retroactively add it into all the fluff. Not that I'm bitter or anything. But yes, this is the Thunderhawk Gunship. Which is absolutely iconic. Been there since the earliest days of Rogue Trader. Space Marine Transport. Robert White, no one uses the shotguns in Templar lists, so you'll find them easy enough. Yeah, that's what I suspected. That's probably your best bet then. Cheapest bet is Scions and Templar shotguns. Steve T, is this a resin one or the metal one that weighs as much of an elephant? This is the current resin one. So after the metal one, they did a hand sculpted resin one, and that also had the transporter come out at the same time. And then they replaced that version, and unfortunately lost the transporter with this version. So this is the one you can currently buy off of Forge World. I would kill a man for the metal one. I've got a bit of a history with the metal one. So the original ones they made, long before they were selling them, they were all hand casted, and they made 3 or 4, I think. But they were all hand casted for a games day, and they tried to make the whole Ultramarines chapter many years ago when I was a young lad. My dad took me to Warhammer World, and while we were going around, because you used to have a tour of the exhibition hall, and while we were on the exhibition hall tour, the guy giving the tour asked me if I'd like to hold the Thunderhawk, and I did. I was very excited. I must have been 10 or 11 or something, and I was a bit surprised by how heavy it was, so I immediately dropped it. And because it was a hand-casted, huge honking chunk of metal that, as it turns out, wasn't pinned, it smashed into a million pieces. It completely fell apart. So one of the only Thunderhawks in existence, the one that was in the Games Day Parade thingy, was smashed by me. As a child, by accident. I kind of a little bit feel that redoing one now is a little bit penance for the fact that I broke one 20 years ago, the original one. That poor bloke, you should see the look on his face still haunts me to this day. Thunderhawk reminds me of Dawn of War, classic game. Yeah, I love Dawn of War. I like the first one a lot, the second one a little bit, the third one not at all. It was awful. This is the plastic one though, right? Not the metal one. No, this is the resin one. I'll say it's the second resin one they made. The plastic one is for Aeronautica, and it's about that big. Actario, this is 800 points plus. Yes, 800 points on the nose. And it's not even very good. The gun on the top's pretty good, but it's nothing to write home about. You bring this because you want to bring a Thunderhawk, not because you want to win. It's not even got that good a defensive profile. Toughness 8, 2 up, 30 wounds, no invuln. 800 points. No weaponry, you've got a few missiles, you've got a couple of twin heavy bolters, and you've got the big cannon on the top. But the cannon on the top's got the best name of any gun in 40k, is the Turbo Laser Destroyer. Sorry, Destructor. Which is an amazing name for a gun. Squidmar sold his Thunderhawk gunship for like 25 grand. Yeah, I know. And whilst I don't begrudge him that was an amazing amount of money to make, and a lot of work went into it. I'm just sad that it's disappeared off, and I don't think we're going to get to see it again. I feel like that's the sort of thing that I almost want to be at Warhammer World, where everyone can see it. Steve T, cemented your legacy in Warhammer history. Yeah, I did. That poor bloke. I can't imagine they let anybody else hold the Thunderhawk after that happened. Even if they fixed it or swapped it for the other one. They must have fixed it. Too special not to fix. Bet you got tanning off the manager. Yeah, I bet. Dark Crusade was the best. So iconic. Yeah, it was. Soulstorm afterwards was a bit rubbish. The sisters didn't work properly, and the flyers weren't a good addition to it. I've got one of those land speeders somewhere. I haven't built it yet. They used in Dark Crusade because they went on last chance because they've sort of legended them, I think. Back when Necrons were actually scary, yeah, they were. Although they might be now again with the changes in the points drops. I could see them being quite tough. Although last time I used them, they were a bit of a joke. Or last time I played them. Yeah, but the Thunderhawk can actually take Primaris. That's got to be for something, right? Right? Cries in land. Yeah, I know. With the changes, I still want to try and build a list where everything goes in the Thunderhawk. Because the fact that it can take Primaris means that I can do something like Red Devastation of Baal, where it's got Mephiston flying along the Thunderhawk. I think that could be wicked. Live now, I think. I think that could be absolutely wicked to have like Mephiston leading a strike force in a Thunderhawk. It won't be very effective, but it certainly looked cool. I was annoyed when they made it so you can only bring 2 flyers, because I wanted to bring a couple of flyers, maybe a Storm Raven, or I've got Storm Talon that I quite like, just alongside it, just to like flank it like wingmen. And one wingman just looks weird. I'm conscious of the fact that you probably can't see what I'm doing now. With the angle of the camera, which is up there, and the angle I've got this model at. I'm a bit short for space at the moment, but hoping to move soon, and then I'll have a bigger painting area and be able to move the camera on the other side. Ironic, Chaos players hated us for having the extra wound, and now we shall hate them for having the upgraded vehicles. Amazing balance from GW. Yeah, it is. Although, if I'm honest, I reckon that Tactical Marines would be better going back to 1 wound and becoming mega cheaper. You made them sort of like 1 wound but 14 or 15 points each. I think they'd have a real place in the game. Whereas at the moment, they just don't. No reason to bring them over anything else. It costs too many points when you start giving them any equipment. If you don't give them any equipment, they're worse in more or less every way than the other options. Lionel, Necrons are scary now. Command Protocols rework is very good. Yeah, I can see that. I haven't played them yet, but I suspect that they could be quite good. So what's that? So we've been running for 34 minutes and nothing's broken yet, so I think we're doing all right. Hold on, just about run out of that paint, so I'm going to have to get some more out in a minute. This scale colour black metal is like one of my favourite metallic paints. It's absolutely excellent for doing this kind of thing. It goes through the airbrush really well as well. Lionel, I'd gladly play 12 to 14 points, 1 wound tac marines. Yeah, I think they'd get a lot more play if you did that. I really do. I think they'd make good objective holders. I think they'd make interesting kind of heavy weapon caddies. Because the 2 wounds doesn't really seem to add much survivability. Because there's so much damage too running around in the game. But they die more or less as quick as anything else anyway. You're not going to waste your transhuman on them anyway, even if they had it. Quite chuffed with the way I've got these wings magnetised so that I can put them up and down. Because on the model as it comes, they just flop about. That's annoying. I hate moving parts on models. They get in the way when I'm trying to paint them. Better. We getting there? Very slowly. I'm getting through this quite quickly. Firstborn should get a little extra something to show their combat experience over thousands of years. Something like miracle dice they can only use once. Yeah, that'd give them something extra, wouldn't it? Because lore-wise, Primaris haven't had the experience the Firstborn have. Yeah, I agree. They need something. I don't know if miracle dice, because it's going to slow the game down a little bit. But I do think that they should have some sort of benefit. Maybe to reflect the fact that physically Primaris are bigger and stronger and better, but they're nowhere near as experienced. With the exception of the ones that have gone through the Rubicon. Maybe that's what they're leaning into. Kind of all the really advanced ones, the good ones are all going through the Rubicon anyway. Ability. Getting there. When I've done this kind of stage, done all these metallics on the top and the bottom, painting the bottom of this is a pain in the arse because you can't flip it over because it just won't sit that way up. So I've got a bit of foam sitting on the floor down here that I was resting it in like a cradle so I could paint the other side. Real pain. So I'm sort of doing the two halves almost completely separately. But anyway, so once I've got the silver done, I'll give it a coat of gloss varnish and I can start working on some transfers and then oils. Because I want to put a little bit of weathering on this, but I really want to use a bit of oils to get some definition in the panel lines. Shame there isn't a Firstborn exclusive stratagem, but yeah, GW doesn't want us using our vulnerable or Firstborn. I'd agree in some ways, because they've definitely been pushing Primaris, although they have just released all the Horus Heresy stuff that's usable. Now, a little while ago, I said, oh, maybe I'm being cynical, but I suspect they're going to push all of the Firstborn over time out of 40k and into Heresy. By either making them rubbish in 40k or really good in Heresy or whatever. So that you end up having to buy a 40k and a Heresy army, rather than being able to lean on the same army for both game systems. Someone mentioned earlier that Custodes haven't got rules yet for Heresy 2nd edition. And that could potentially lean into that as well. Now, why allow people to have one army when they can make you have two? Although I might be being a bit too cynical with that. That new Age of Darkness box is amazing, and the book is fantastic. The Age of Darkness book is way better than the 40k one. It's got more lore, it's got better art. I know that a lot of it's from the old Horus Heresy Black books, which were amazing, but it's just the production quality of it is phenomenal. Really impressed me. It's got some beautiful colour plates as well for the different legions. Mark, they do, but in Horus Heresy, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Steve T finally started the Horus Heresy box, and all I want to do is convert the Tactical Marines into 40k jump units. Really stoked on the new scale proportions on them. They're beautiful models, aren't they? It's a moot point anyway, because Firstborn are on their way out. Slowly but surely. The only ones I use are Vanguard Vets. That's only for the jetpacks. Yeah, well, Death Company and Sanguinary Guard are all I'm really using at the moment. And a couple of random characters like the Librarian, because he can take a jump pack. Lionel makes sense, yeah. I think it's the way I'm looking at it. Robert White, it's a book. It's not a book, it's a brick. Yeah, it's a ridiculous tome. It's way bigger than the 40k book, but it's a way more interesting book. The production value on that book seems way higher. Not that I'm complaining, because it's beautiful. I'm thoroughly enjoying reading it at the moment. I'm not even really going to play any Horus Heresy for the time being, but really enjoying reading the book. Rubbing away with silver at these bits at the moment. Don't know if I want to do a heat bloom effect or not, because normally heat bloom means it's not made very well, and I can't see that on a Thunderhawk. That's what thoughts on the new GW Paints? I haven't bought any yet, but I will do. I really like contrast. I haven't got the whole range of contrast, but I do have a lot of contrast paints. There's a few that I really like this Talisar Blue is a beautiful one. A couple of greens and that are really nice. There's a turquoise is a beautiful paint as well. So I do like my contrast paints. I did a night video a little while ago where I was painting one of those up and I used contrast through an airbrush because they're really saturated. They work a lot like inks, but in some ways they're a bit easier to use than an ink through the airbrush. So I will be getting them, and I don't know if I'll review them, but I'll certainly give my thoughts on them when I've tried them all out. I'm not really that interested in the shades. I don't use many of them. I've got some Nuln Oil in the drawer here, but I rarely get it out. It doesn't, the kind of washing things down doesn't really gel with my sort of style of painting, because I like really bright, bold colours, and that kind of, especially all over washes and that, dulls the colours down a little bit and can desaturate them, and that's not what I'm a big fan of. So I tend to use oils and enamel washes because I can be a bit more precise with those for pin washing and keep the depth of colour. Just about built up enough of this silver, and I'm about to go to a brighter one. Bit of interest in there. Hope we don't lose jump pack characters, poor Chaos Marines. Yeah, I can't see them doing it, but I'll be really annoyed if they did. I'm looking forward to the new contrast. Iffy on the reformulated shades. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. The yellow looks pretty interesting. Yeah, it does. The current contrast yellow is not bad, but it does go a little bit blotchy. The yellow I've done on here, I'm using this Chimera Paints. Don't know if that's going to come out on the camera or not. These are really good single pigment paints, and they're really thick, and they give a beautiful finish, but they are a little bit trickier to work with. If you just want to bosh something on, can't really beat contrast. So those new yellows do look quite good for that. Excuse me. I'm hoping and praying for Primar's Chaplain and Jetpack. Yeah, you imagine because the Blood Angels specific Chaplain with a jetpack is incredible. I'd love to see him upsized a little bit. Because he's just a great base for making any jump pack character out of, because he's got that fantastic jump pack. But I'm guessing it's just a yellow pigment. It's probably cheaper to buy pigment and ink, possibly. I still prefer the AK Interactive Gen 3 paints. Yeah, I've tried a couple of them now. They're okay. I haven't replaced any of my sort of standard ones with them yet. The set that I'm excited to buy, which I'm going to pick up when I move, is Golden's So Flat range. They look very, very nice. So I'm going to get a set of those and try them out properly. I've kick-started some Chimera stuff. So I've got the expansion set coming, which I'm quite excited about. There are a couple of misses in there though, so I don't know if I'll like all of them. So it can't beat the GW Paint names though. No. Well, I know what you mean. They're amazing. But if you're trying to explain what colour something is, it can be a little bit difficult. Because like, yeah, what the hell is Warp Lightning as a colour? I know it's a green, but if you didn't know that, then what are you going to do with that information? There's some really bizarre names for some of these. I'm just trying to look at a couple of them I've just got in my drawer because I've put all mine in dropper bottles, which is fine. Oh, yeah, Dark Reaper. What the hell colour's that? So yeah, it does make it hard when you're trying to explain it to somebody else. I love using contrast or an airbrush as a tint over zenithal highlights. The layering you can build up with them is amazing. Yeah, I do too. There's so much. If you're trying to do something quickly, you do your zenithal, build up kind of your value sketch with greys and whites over black, and then you put your airbrush contrast over the top, and you can get a really nice deep, because they are very saturated, and these new ones look even more saturated to the point of being an ink almost. Well, they are. They're really just sort of an ink with an additive. So you can get some really good finishes really quickly with that. Lionel, Primaris Assault Marines, please. Possible hot take, but I don't rate Agrax Earthshade. No, I don't really use it. That's just not entirely true. I haven't got any examples handy, but I use a little bit of Agrax Earthshade in my basing. Because I've got kind of a reddish, brownsy, deserty fade on them, and I use a little bit of Agrax underneath each of the rocks just to add a little bit of definition. That's literally the only place I do it, is on the basing for my Blood Angels. Nothing else. I'd love Primaris Assault Marines as well, yeah. GT Pro Aqua paints have been my favourite so far. A lot of people really like them. I need to get a few more. I've got their red, I've got the black, and I've got the white, and I think I've got a couple of other ones as well. And they were okay, but I wasn't blown away by them compared to the ones I've normally used for those sort of things. Right, Redemptor Chaplain, Primaris Assault Marines, Jetpack HQs, come on GW, Space Marines need more love. They do and they don't. You know, if we think it's been basically 5 years since we had the last Chaos Space Marine Codex, I think it's about time, but it does seem a bit weird that some of the real staple units aren't in there yet. A bit sad. Right, let's get another going on. One of the worst things they tell you is to use those shades over metallics. Dulls the hell out of them. Yeah, it does. And whilst dull metallics have got a place, I'm a bit weird in that I like to matte varnish over my metallics because I think it blends the highlights in together. I don't like using shades because to me it looks a little bit unnatural. I'm hoping that my vortex mixer isn't coming through on the microphone. We'll find out in a minute. Or the camera's not vibrating violently. I can't tell. Alright, so I'm stepping this up now. I only tend to do 2 colours on metallics. I quite like the kind of extreme contrast. So this is Scale Colour Heavy Metal. I don't mind this paint. It's got a nice tone to it, but I wish the coverage was slightly better. I bought... God, I might actually give it a go. Let's give it a go. I've bought this Vallejo Metal Colour Duraluminium. I've got one of the other metal colour colours and I quite liked it. And I wanted to get something that had... I like the tone, but I wanted a bit more coverage. And I don't like the GW one because the flakes are too big. Oh, this is very runny. I don't know how well it's going to dry brush, but we shall find out. In the name of science. Not on the mic, but on the camera, yeah. Well, also on the mic, but not so bad. Right, okay, so I think I've probably got to move the vortex mixers home to somewhere else. Oh dear, I don't think this paint is going to dry brush very well. The coverage looks spectacular. Let's give it a go. Colour's good. Coverage is spectacular. Dry brush ability is fail. It's not a paint for dry brushing. Too thin. Oh well, live and learn. Always excited to try new paints out. On the other hand, contrast over metallics is, yeah, it's a great look. I still think that if you're doing it over metallic, Tamiya clear paints, that's their clear red, work better than the contrast ones because they don't do that annoying thing that contrast does, which is it has a habit of pooling a little bit and you end up with random dark spots all over your model. I think the Tamiya ones they're a bit of a pain to work with, but I do think they give a better finish. It looks alright, it's just not the best paint for dry brushing. Oh yeah, those large bottle Vallejo metallics are pretty fluid. They're meant for straight into the airbrush. Yeah, they are, but you never know. I want to give it a go. If I didn't try it, I would never know, Cesario. Looks like my hunt for a bright silver with good coverage continues. I bought this Turbo Dork one the other day, but it turns out this sparkly motion is literally just kind of like unpigmented paint. I thought it was going to be silver, but really it's got zero coverage. It just turns whatever you put it over sparkly, which is interesting, but not ideal. And then I bought this Dark Star Silver, and the coverage on these is, excuse my French, fucking awful. Again, the colour's great, the coverage is useless. Which is annoying. Inks are phenomenal over metallics too. Yeah, they are, absolutely. Andy, Liquitex for me. Yeah, I've got a few Liquitex inks about. But to be honest, inks are inks. So I've got the scale colour inks in here, and these are fine. I've got some Liquitex inks in my other cabinet over there. I really can't tell the difference. Basically, I've got these ones at hand because they're slightly smaller and fit in my drawer. Model Colour Air Metallics paint on very well. I've tried a couple of them, but I didn't like the tone of the silver one. Now, I need to try a couple of other ones. If they've got this duraluminium, but in a slightly thicker formula, I think that could be the way forward, but I suspect not, because these ones, if I remember rightly, these are alcohol based, which means that they probably won't do it as a traditional tone. I'm really painting this rather than dry brushing it. It's so liquid. I hope it doesn't bugger my brush up. Love this brush. Molotow Liquid Chrome is killer. I just saw that Element Games have started stocking Molotow paints. Now I know Marco Frissoni is a big fan of Molotow paints, and I've never used them. So when I next order some paint from Element, I'm going to get a couple of those to try out. Probably when I get the new GW contrast ones as well, at the same sort of time. And I'm going to see how good they are, because they do seem they do a lot of stuff for like graffiti artists and stuff like that. Street artists, so I would imagine that they would be pretty good for kind of airbrushing and things like that. We'll wait and see. I've got these Ammo by Mig Paints, and these are great for airbrushing as well, but they separate like an absolute bastard. And if you put them on the wet palette, they separate immediately. They're awful for it. They're almost pure airbrush paints. Nearest thing I've used are purely only usable in the airbrush kind of paint. Andy, I've been using Molotow for years, spray painting. One for All is amazing and very high pigment levels. I need to give them a go. I'm quite excited about it. I'm hoping they can brush paint as well, because I do a fair mixture of brush and airbrush. Like even on this, the red is obviously airbrushed on, but everything else has been done by hand, mostly with a dry brush, because I think sometimes people get a bit too excited about needing an airbrush. But for some applications, I think you can actually do it quicker with a set of dry brushes. Even if you just buy in your makeup brushes, you don't need these fancy ones. I've got these because I'm a sucker, rather than particularly needing them. I'm convinced you're better off with a reasonable airbrush and a reasonable set of dry brushes and a bit of effort, rather than a cheap airbrush, because those cheap airbrushes are absolutely awful. I remember buying one a while ago and I spent about 50 quid on it, and it was so useless that basically put it in the bin. Sorry, left field brand Zero Paints, maybe. They're more orientated on airbrush paints that match real life car colours, but they're really good at that. Okay, I've not heard of Zero Paints, Azorio. I'll have to look them up. I'm sure they are available here, otherwise I'll be getting them from the Netherlands. The Molotow refillable pens could be very handy too. I saw them. I wondered how what the nib was like, because they did a bright silver with a good nib on it, then I could almost draw my highlights on things like that. Could be quite fun. No beer tonight because it's a school night. Zero Paints, a UK brand. I'd be shocked you wouldn't be able to get from them. I didn't know that. I'll have to have a look. I've definitely not heard of them. I know you're super into sort of that model making side, so it might be that they're kind of well known in the model making but haven't moved over into wargaming, a bit like these Mig Paints that I've been using, which, like I say, are great through the airbrush, useless with a real brush, because they immediately separate as soon as I put them on the palette. Up to for time, so we are some minutes in, 59 minutes in, and we haven't broken down yet, so I'm doing all right. The HDMI output and the capture card seems to be doing it. They do fine line nibs as extras. Recommend Graph City Alfresh Co. cheapest. I'll check them out. I've not been able to get my hands on them myself, mostly because the only shop that sold them here went out of business. If they do sell them here and you're looking for them, give me a shout and I'll post them to you, Cesario. Or I'll send them over with Catapult when he goes to visit you. Above our retailers online. I'll Google them up in a minute. I don't know if they're any good for paint brushes. Scale 75 has phenomenal metallics with a very high contrast, if that's not your thing. We're actually using Scale 75 already, Steve. So the dark silver that's on here is Scale 75's black metal. If I've lined that up right. And the light silver that I normally use is heavy metal. Now I really like Scale 75 paints because I love matte finish. But I don't like heavy metal. I love the colour. I don't like the way it brushes. I've been looking for a replacement. Their golds are spectacular. I've never found anything come close to their golds. But yeah, most of this is painted in Scale 75. The red scale colour. The black and the white with Tamiya. And like I say, dark silver's scale colour, and when I do the rest of the yellows, that'll be scale as well. Although the base is Chimera, which is actually very similar to the scale colour paints in a lot of ways. I don't mind this. I like the tone. It's just so fluidy that you can't really dry brush it. Colour's beautiful. I said it earlier, but I actually really like this texture palette. I thought it was a bit of a waste of money when I bought it, but it turns out that it's quite handy. No, I've missed a bit on the other side of this, so I'm going to spin it. Hell out of me later on. Won't have the right colours on the palette. Could you leave the pot open overnight to thicken the paint? I don't know what would happen if I did that, to be honest. Don't know if I want to risk it because it feels like it's going to go beautifully through the airbrush. I think maybe it's designed more for that. Just not for dry brushing. That's alright. Live and learn. I've tried it out now. I know that for the future. I'll give it a go with my normal hairy brush later. I'll do a bit more detail work. I'll see how that works. I'll give it a go through the airbrush when I need to do some silvery bits in the airbrush. Quite pleased it's turning out so far. I've had to rush it a little bit because I haven't had infinite time to work. It's starting to look alright. Very excited about actually playing a game. I'm going to play a 1,000-point game. Do you reckon you can get 1,000 points with this? How would you do it? This is 800 points. Can you get 200 points? Can you get a troops? Yeah, you can get troops choice on an HQ slot for 200 points, can you? It'd be a crap army, but imagine rocking up to a 1,000-point game with a Thunderhawk, a unit of tactical marines, and some sort of captain. No, we wouldn't get a captain, would you? Just about squeeze like a librarian or something in there. Also, the cheapest troop choice you can take is 90 points. It wouldn't fit in the deployment zone. You'd have to put it in there. Would it even fit sideways? I don't think it would. I wonder how John's stream's going on. Colour to it. It does work well for this because I mean I said earlier that I only really generally use a couple of colours at a time because I like quite extreme contrast when I'm doing metallics. Seems to be working alright. Because I'll emphasise the difference when I put some oils on there. Still haven't decided whether I want to try and do a heat bloom effect. I don't really, because you only get heat bloom when something's not made very well, and I can't imagine that they didn't make the Thunderhawk very well. Sideways would have to be only way, surely. I'm not even sure it'd fit in sideways. What's the deployment zone for 1,000-point game? About sort of like only about 6 inches, isn't it? And this even sideways is about 18 inches wide. There is a rule, but if you can't deploy it because it doesn't fit in the deployment zone, you have to put it in anyway, close to the back edge as possible. But in turn 1, it can't do anything. Can't move, can't shoot, can't do anything. But your opponent can shoot it. Which means that if you bring something like this for 800 points, the first turn of the game, it literally can't do anything. But you also can't hide it, and your opponent can shoot it as much as they like. It's only toughness 8 with 30 wounds. It won't live that long. No invuln save or anything on it. Has it got void shield? No, it doesn't even have void shields. Storm Eagle's got void shields. Storm Eagle? Whatever it is. Stormbird. 1,000 points, no chance. Yeah, I don't think there is. I think I'd end up getting absolutely spanked, but I just want to see the look on my opponent's face. I rock up with something as bizarre as this. I think I'm getting relatively happy with how that's turning out. It might be time to try and clean this brush. Moment. Bit minging, very minging. I'll wash these out properly. I'm trying to get the bulk of it off. I want the pigment sitting in there. So, around 8 minutes. Nothing's caught fire just yet. So far so good on the camera test. Right, what should I do next? I think I'm gonna have to flip it over, aren't I? I don't want to flip it over, it's too heavy, it's too big. I'm tempted just to paint something else. That's what I'm going to do. Just for a minute. Right. Cheers, Steve. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Cesario, I missed the start. Try anything new with the camera. Yeah, I've got... so last time I was running the camera through USB from the laptop, and I've also got the GoPro running on the USB as well, and I think the bus didn't have enough power to run and charge them both at the same time. So now I've got the GoPro running on USB from the laptop, and then the camera is running, it's still charging and running at the same time, but it's coming off of its power brick, and then the camera is coming out of HDMI into an Elgato into the laptop, which means that it's not actually filming or anything, it's just streaming direct, which is quite good because it's running a lot cooler than it did. And it doesn't seem to be using as much charge. Lionel, been fun chatting, but work tomorrow. Good luck with the Thunderhawk. Cheers, Lion. Thanks for coming, mate. Cesario, fancy. Fairly, but hopefully it'll work. And I was a little bit worried about how hot my camera was getting before as well. It does seem to run cooler this way because it's just much less load on the camera, isn't it? Right, so I'm going to put this to one side, and then I'm going to work on something that dries. And we'll also see if I can get the camera to focus on something a little bit smaller. So let's see what happens. So let's work on this Satellum on here, because I've gotten a little way with him. So I got a little bit away with him last time, a little while ago, but I haven't done anything since then. And now the other dreadnought's got a nerf. I think I'm going to find more use for the Telemon, because he's much closer in points now. He's only 260 points with this loadout. Sorry, 285 points with this loadout. And it's a pretty chonky thing to fight. So I'm just, if you wonder what I'm doing, I'm just brushing the, there isn't any dust on him or anything. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the metallics and I'm going to put another colour on him. So he's already been oiled, this guy, a little bit. I panel lined him a while ago and I've painted his gold, but it's a bit boring, so I want to add some more colours to him. Let's try out some other new paints. I think I give Dark Star Paints another. So let's give these Dark Star Paints a go. I think that marks you as a real streamer now. Don't know about that. Oh no, photo cameras get hot when recording video. Yeah, they do. This one has a bit. It's certainly warm, but it's not as hot as it was getting. The new EOS R5 was software limited to recording for 30 minutes max. I think this one will as well, unless you're using an external recording, because it only does 10-bit video to external. Won't allow you to record to 10-bit internally, which is a little bit strange. You've got to stream it out the HDMI into an external capture if you want to do 10-bit video. A little bit strange. So I'm trying out some different stuff. This is Dark Star Blue Steel, which is a super dark metallic. So I'll give this a go and see how it looks. Need a paintbrush. One. It's a good paintbrush. Quick question, if you don't mind, man. I'm looking to build a Siege of Baal game board, hopefully including part of the Sanguinius Way and the Arx Angelicum. Anything I should be including lore-wise? So doing a Siege of Baal game. So you're thinking more sort of Devastation back when it was against the Nids. So I'd try and include a bit of, almost try and hint the fact that it's a lot of the places buried, because they were uncovering big chunks of the Arx Angelicum while they were digging in for the Nids, and it'd be quite fun to have some almost kind of buried ruins coming out of the sands, or maybe go the whole hog with kind of trench networks and stuff like that. That could also look quite cool. Hi Aridin. Yeah, I bet there's something you could do with like unearthing the old glory, so like half buried statues and stuff like that. That could look wicked. Right, so what have I got here? An old sable brush, so I think I'll probably use that. I've got another one of these old sable brushes that I find quite useful for this one. Red grass one, that'll do. So as my brushes wear down and get a bit worn out, they get kind of demoted to be metallic brushes and contrast paint brushes. Work a bit like that. See, they're very reflective, these Dark Star. Coverage is shit. This is going to take 2 or 3 coats. I don't want to do 2 or 3 coats because I haven't got infinite time. Whereas the scale black metal I can do in one coat. It's a lot more convenient. I think I read with these Dark Stars they're not using mica, they're actually using true metallic particles. Still doesn't help that they come. I don't know how well that's coming through on the camera, but it's, yeah, not great. So the arms on this are magnetised so that I can take them off and get in. I'll go with a super chill lo-fi. Because if I'm honest, I tend to listen to admittedly not royalty free lo-fi, but painted. Right, once it's on there, it's just the fact that it takes me 2 or 3 coats to get decent coverage that I don't like. So, 20 past. I'm probably going to run for another 10 minutes or so, and then I'm going to end the stream. I don't know if John's still going on the BAC channel. I think we can say that the camera is working a lot better like this. And over time, I will work out a proper streaming schedule. I'm thinking probably Tuesdays. Forward, but we'll wait and see what people want for it. This Thursday we'll have a live stream on the channel. We're going to be talking, or the plan is to be talking about Nephilim, how that affects different armies. It'll be an interesting one because I think we've got mixed opinions on how good it is. I know Blood Angel's got a big glow up from it, especially if you play like I do, which is not. I don't really like Hero Hammer. I tend to concentrate more on units. The things like the less CP to start with don't really affect me all that much. But then on other armies like Custodes, Eldar and things like that, armies that really rely on those spending the CP up front, it's really hurt those armies. So, interesting way of looking at it at the moment. Andy managed to find an old Imperial sector box. The GW terrain is super nice. It is super nice, yeah. It's really expensive, but you get what you pay for a little bit. Even some of the modern stuff. I was looking at some of the stuff that came in the Kill Team boxes. It's really nice. Never quite sure with these custos colour to paint, because supposedly it's all made out of auramite. And auramite can be whatever colour you want, which would imply then you're not going to have paint or tint different areas of the model with different colours. Wouldn't make any sense. But if everything's gold, as much as I love gold, it's a little bit boring to look at. I'm sort of arbitrarily painting a couple of bits silver. Andy, looking forward to Thursday. Yeah, it should be good. We haven't really scripted it, so one of those episodes. I quite like to plan out what I'm going to look at, so I always get a little bit nervous when we're doing an unscripted Grots episode. I don't mind doing these live streams because, well, I know what I'm talking about painting, and I am painting, so that's all right. But when it comes to doing the more open-ended discussion stuff, I tend to get a little bit of a flap. I always think with these Telemons that they're everything that the Leviathan Dreadnought should be. The Leviathan is probably my favourite Dreadnought, but does need to be a bit tougher. I treated myself to this Telemon new Custodes book come out because I didn't have one. Glad I did. Such a cool. Really wish the Leviathan. Or even nearly as good. Guy's too easy at the moment. Genuinely like the less formal feel of it. It's obvious you guys get on and that comes through when watching. I wouldn't worry at all. Oh, cheers, Andy. We do get on. We are all mates. We have different styles of doing things, I think. When we do the episodes, I tend to spend a bit of time kind of, I don't want to say scripting it, but I spend a bit of time working out what I'm going to say. I try and plan out a few funny things to say and a few jokes. And I know that it's probably not that necessary, but it just makes me feel a little bit more ready to do it. I think that's the autistic physics teacher in me coming out. Got James Fisher just bought 3,500 points of Custodes. Looked like a nice army to help teach folks the games. 3,500 points, that's like 3 models. Jesus Christ. You're never going to get to run all 3 models in one game, James. Mark's back. The way we each have a different view is a feature, not a bug. Yeah, exactly. There was someone talking earlier about our video on getting started with Blood Angels and how we need to update it. And I had a quick look at it, and I don't think we do, because I suppose in some ways, because the points costs all changed. But largely, the thing about that video was his 3 different ways of playing Blood Angels, and we went with, this is hyper competitive, this is a bit more weird, this is a bit more fluffy, and I think that still holds up today. Because there was a bit of a discussion in the Discord about whether you should run 30 Sanguinary Guard and 1,000 points. And I think when you're using these getting started armies, it's more about getting started to learn the faction rather than trying to win at 1,000 points. And I think if you concentrate too much on winning, you can struggle to learn enough about the game. Mark, yeah, kind of swapping audio. I'm listening to between here and John's army review. Has there been any good and surprising armies, Mark? Or has it been very 30 Sanguinary Guard, a Death Company, and some Incursors? Not that I'm cynical at all. I may have made a mistake, but I'm not sure. Well, we'll see how it looks when it's finished. There's some variety, nothing groundbreaking, an acronym that I don't understand. Mark uses a lot of acronyms because he's down with the kids. Whereas I think I'm legally not allowed to be down with the kids. So that the kids can say things, and as their teacher I don't understand them. In my not so humble opinion. Oh, fair enough. Live and learn. Every day's a school day. I think a lot of these acronyms and things came from when people used to play a lot of MMOs. And because I'm wildly antisocial, I've never played any of them. I kind of missed out on that side of the internet. Really don't like this paint. Just doesn't cover. The colour's great, the colour's lovely, but the fact that every bit you paint needs kind of 2 or 3 coats is pretty tiresome. You'll look alright when it's done. I just wish I'd picked a different paint. Atlas, man, Custodes have just fallen from the face of the earth since their codex dropped. Yeah. When their codex dropped, they were, I think, I want to say they weren't that overtuned. I think the meta just hadn't worked out how to play against them yet. And the armies that they're mostly weak against was Death Guard, and they were nowhere. But they were superb Marine killers. And since they've kind of had one massive nerf and then another minor nerf since then, and they've just fallen off the scene completely. You see them occasionally in some sort of small RCTs and that, but if I went to a tournament tomorrow, I wanted to win, certainly do well, I wouldn't be taking my Custodes, I'd be taking my Blood Angels. I just think they're a far, far stronger army at the moment. Speaking of which, my Death Guard list is down 270 points. I think that there's a stunning Death Guard list in there. A lot of players I've seen are still running kind of 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, the massive lump of Blight Lords, and trying to hold the middle. And I'm convinced there's a uber competitive Death Guard army that focuses heavily on MSU Terminators and the bloke drones. And what you do is you just build the fastest Death Guard army you can. So your bloat drones are flying around, running everything over with their flesh mowers, and you're dropping down blight lords on objectives, little squads of them. Because even without all the backup and buffs, they're an absolute bastard to remove, and they've got obsec. Kind of like Custode used to be able to do with the Alarus, and you just drop Blight Lord Terminators down on all of the objectives, and just go, right, come at me. And then they'll spend so long trying to get you off the objectives that they won't be able to do it. Because if you do that whole, I've got this death blob and I put it in the middle of the board, well then you've taken that middle objective, but you've given the rest of the board up to the rest of the army. And that's how they're not winning, because they're not playing the objective game. They're trying to either kill or not be killed. But I'm convinced Speedy Death Guard would be an absolute winner. Plague Marine loadouts are now all free. It's like 10-point drop per model. Yeah, that makes them a lot better. Alex, I have the models to try the list out, so I might give it a go. Give it a go. Let me know how it goes, because I'm not a Death Guard player, but I have read the Codex and I've played against them a few times. And every time I've beaten them, it's been because they've clumped up in the middle of the board, and I've just had the rest of it. Do what I want with it. It does seem when I look at people at tournaments and they're still turning up with that massive, like, or the Death Shroud of Doom, and even Morty, he's quick. So if you're going to bring Morty and a load of Flesh Mower Blight drones to back him up, because if he dies, the problem with Morty is that if he dies, you've lost a quarter of your army. But don't let him die. But at the same time, don't dawdle about not letting him kill anything. You know, just imagine your opponent. You've dropped a squad of Blight Lords on every objective on the table, and you've got Morty hanging about. So they know that if they charge him, they won't be able to kill him in a turn, and Morty's going to come and wreck whatever unit charged him. And that's discounting the damage that they would do themselves. Pigment in this Dark Star paint is very chunky as well, very big. And I've been bitching about him quite a lot, but thought I'd give him another go and I'm regretting it. Let's try out these metal colour with the brush. Tell you what, I'm going to use a little well palette rather than my one, because it's so fluid. So I said this earlier, but I really like to just do one highlight. Alex, I think it looks a bit, I like that kind of ultra high contrast metallic look. That's really nice. Things I've learned today. Vallejo metal colour Duraluminium is great with a normal brush, but shit for the dry brush. And the Dark Star paint is not for me. That is a lovely gold as the camera's showing it. Cheers, Mark. I've been messing about with my gold recipes for a while. And this is my rich gold for the custodes. Whereas my blood angels, I've gone with a much more desaturated. So this one is notes. This is Viking Gold. Main colour of this, so I use decayed metal. I lost that somewhere. So decayed metal with mixed with Cygor brown as a base coat, with Viking Gold over the top of that, then Elven Gold as a highlight, and then a little bit of Amber Alchemy on the corners just to add a little bit of interest to it. I really don't like highlighting gold with silver because I think it desaturates it, and that looks fine if that's the look you're going for. But for custodes, I want a really rich yellow gold rather than going greeny or anything like that. I don't want to draw too much attention to the silver. It's really just to break up the gold. This is the purpose. I'm just doing one fairly broad highlight, and there's quite a big value jump between the two silvers. Just add a bit of interest to it. Good. That. This for that. Right, we seem to be all right. Nothing has broken on the camera. I'm just checking it. Oh, it's not lost all its charge, so that's good. So I think the test has been relatively successful. So I will work out a proper schedule for when I'm going to stream. Hopefully we'll get John and Mark on it a little bit at some point. That'd be good. Mark's super resistant, doesn't want to be in the video. Cesario, I'm a sucker for a good copper coat. Wouldn't be very Imperium, I suppose. I can do a good copper. I've got a couple of copper colours that I use. I think it looks really good, especially on things like Admech, which are in the more Baroque kind of diesel punky sort of look. I've seen some of your painting, Mark. You're a good painter. You're a consistent painter and your stuff looks great, and that's the important thing. I'm not a good painter. I just do a lot of it. What's this? Time to go feed my son dinner. Thanks for the stream, Tony. Cheers, James. Thanks for watching. I don't think me streaming painting would help anyone, just make me more self-conscious. You never know. Anyway, so thank you very much for watching, everybody. I look forward to speaking to you all again. Anything you want to say, drop in the comments or let me know on Discord if we can do anything better. I'll keep tweaking the setup and it will get better and better over time. Thanks, everybody. Have a lovely evening. Good night, all.